Good morning, everyone. Good morning. There was a pretty interesting story in the news recently, but unless you follow sports, I'm not sure if you would have heard about it, so allow me to share it with you. There's a man named Peyton Hillis that used to play running back in the NFL. And I remember him because his best and only highlight season was his breakout rookie year when I myself was playing high school football. So every day at practice, all my friends and I would be talking about Peyton Hillis, Peyton Hillis. But then as quickly as he appeared in the NFL, he vanished back into obscurity. One red-hot season, and then he faded away. Sometimes that is the unfortunate reality of life in professional sports. So I hadn't even thought about Peyton Hillis since high school until I saw him in the news a few months ago, not for anything related to football, but he was in the news for rescuing his niece and son from drowning. Hillis had taken his family to the beach in Florida where his son and niece were excited to play in the water. The next thing Hillis knew, someone was screaming that the kids were drowning, so he immediately sprinted into the water to swim out and save them. The hardest thing, he said, for him to do was to swim past his son as his son was drowning to get to where his niece was. Because if he had stopped to get his son, his niece would have been lost forever. He reached his frantic niece, who was crying and screaming, "We're going to die, we're going to die." And he brought her all the way back to the shore, and then he went back in the ocean, exhausted, to go get his son. As he went and reached his son, he realized that his son's body had gone entirely limp. And Hillis even admitted that he prayed, "Lord, I don't even care about my own life. I truly don't, but please let me save my son." As he eventually brought his son back to the seashore, Hillis's own lungs and kidneys began to fail until he himself became unconscious and passed out and ended up in the hospital in a medically induced coma. Recently, Hillis was interviewed by Michael Strahan on Good Morning America. Michael Strahan said to him, "This is truly an amazing story, and many people are calling you a hero. Would you call yourself a hero?" Peyton Hillis paused at this, and he replied, "Hero is a word that is too loosely thrown around these days." Then he said, "I'm no hero, I'm just a dad. I'm just a dad." In our gospel passage today, we hear a phrase that is well known to all of us. Even the most distant Christians will know the phrase, fisher of men. But for years and years, I struggled with this phrase as it sounded odd to me, and I had no idea what it truly meant. I remember all the way back at summer camp, a priest giving a talk to all of us and telling us to be fishers of men. But I had no idea what it meant. So unfortunately, it became kind of a fond or funny memory for my friends and I, always thinking about what does it mean to be a fisher of men. And I would continue to see this phrase everywhere, from the time of summer camp all the way up until high school. I remember driving down the freeway when a big truck passed me pulling an even bigger boat. And as it passed me, I saw the name of this large boat on the back, Fisher of Men. Yeah. And as it went by, I thought to myself, but what does that mean? It was not until this week, believe it or not, when I was reflecting on today's gospel passage, while also reading the story about Peyton Hillis rescuing his son and niece, when I truly began to understand what Christ was calling his disciples, and by extension each and every one of us, to be a fisher of men who saves the lives and souls of other people. Peyton Hillis, as a father, nearly sacrificed his own life and put himself in harm's way to save the lives of his son and niece. Christ called his disciples, and when he said to them, "Follow me," immediately set them on the same self-sacrificial path that he would ultimately walk on. All of them would end up putting themselves in harm's way to save the lives of so many of us thousands and thousands of years into the future up until this very day. Christ's earthly life, of course, ended in death and crucifixion, and almost all of his apostles were murdered or martyred as well. But Christ and his apostles were not most concerned with their own lives. As hard as this might be to believe, Christ and his apostles, the first of which he calls today, were more concerned with our lives than their very own. And as Christ called Peter, James, Andrew, and John in today's gospel passage to be fishers of men, he calls each and every one of us to be the same. Now you might be asking yourself, isn't this a bit of an extreme call from Christ to ask us to risk our own lives and well-being to save the lives and souls of others? Well, don't be intimidated, because I have some great news for many of you that are here today. All of you dads who celebrate Father's Day, if you had been in Peyton Hillis's shoes, I know that you would have done the same exact thing and saved the lives of someone else. You are truly fishers of men already. Some of you might recall my Mother's Day sermon, not this year but last year, in which I highlighted the beautiful life-giving responsibility that mothers have. So while mothers give life, it is the fathers who are set with the very important responsibility of protecting this very precious life that the mothers create. That's right. And like I said, of course, each and every one of you dads would have jumped into the ocean just like Peyton Hillis without a second thought, knowing that you are out to save someone's life. It is who you are as fathers. And that is why Peyton Hillis did not accept the title of hero, but rather he preferred the even more important yet simple title of dad. We even refer to God himself as Father. You don't have to look far to find proof of this. The very first two words of the Lord's Prayer show us this. We refer to God as Father because, after all, he is the ultimate one who can save us. He is the ultimate one who protects us physically and spiritually. In the church, we even have what are called spiritual fathers. We have priests like Father Stephen, we have bishops like Bishop John, and we have metropolitans like Metropolitan Gerasimos, who protect our spiritual lives by coming out to catch us and save us when we are drowning in the sea of sin in the world around us. There are many kinds of fathers, and all of them are tasked with this staggering duty to protect and save. So what a fitting gospel passage it is for us to have on Father's Day as we celebrate the ones who sacrifice so much to protect the lives of children and families. To be a dad is just about the most important role anyone can have in life, to be someone who saves the lives of others. So important, in fact, is this role that it is the very first thing Christ calls anyone on earth to be when he makes Peter, Andrew, James, and John, and all of us fishers of men today. He saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Amen.